Am I the asshole for wanting my fiance's niece to be the flower girl than my father's AP daughter?
I, 28F, and my fiance, 27M, are planning on getting married in October. We have the dream place that we have always wanted and have most of the planning completed. My father had an affair with his now wife.
She has 2 kids from a previous relationship, 6F, 8M.
My mother did remarry to my stepfather, who I have a very close relationship with. My father offered to pay a significant amount of money for the wedding and wanted to walk me down the aisle. I told him that I only wanted my stepfather to walk me down.
He was heartbroken, but understood why I made my choice.
The bigger issue came up when my fiancé and I decided to ask his brother if his daughter, 5F, could be the flower girl, and she was very excited.
I have no contact with my father's wife, so it took me by surprise when she sent me a long text message wanting to know if her daughter could be the flower girl, as my father put a ton of money into the wedding.
I told her that we had already asked my fiancé's niece to be flower girl. His wife started sending me hateful text messages on how I am being ungrateful and this is the least I could do for my father. I told her that I would happily return the money that he gave me for the wedding.
She sent me a few more messages calling me an asshole, and I had enough and blocked her.
My father did reach out and thinks that I should compromise to keep the peace and let the daughter walk with fiancé's niece. I told him that I was over all this stress and if this continued, then they would be uninvited to the wedding. I have been receiving calls and texts from my father's side of the family calling me an AH.
Am I the asshole for wanting my fiancé's niece to be the flower girl than my father's AP daughter? Not the asshole.
It sounds like your father wanted to find a way back into your life, but selecting your wedding as the time to do that was ignorant, to say the least. To add to that, he's adding to your overall strains through his venomous wife and family. If I'm being honest, you should probably return any money he gave you because I feel like his wife will continue to hold it over your head and use it as an excuse to be a bitch.
Not the asshole.
If you have the funds to do it, I'd return the money and uninvite them all if I were you.
Otherwise, they're going to continue to harass and hold it over your head.
I wouldn't think it would be worth the stress.
Your dad made his bed, and now has to lie in it.
It's honestly ridiculous for him to think he's entitled to any part of your wedding after he harmed your family, even if he did contribute funds. Money isn't a gift if there's strings attached. My father did reach out and thinks that I should compromise to keep the peace and let the daughter walk with fiancé's niece. Lol, what peace? The peace back at his house, I'd wager. Tell them both to pound sand.
Not the asshole. Carry on. You have money to return and people to uninvite. I hope you have a wonderful wedding and that your soon-to-be niece has the time of her life. Not the asshole. I would uninvite your father's abusive wife and her daughter. Your father can come alone or miss his daughter's wedding. If anyone tries to justify it, send them a screenshot of her texts.
And uninvite them, too.
Not the asshole. Return his money, even if you have a smaller wedding. It's wild that 2 folks who broke your parents' wedding vows want their way at your wedding. Am I the asshole for giving away my sister's room to an international student in return for free babysitting? My sister Lainey lived with my family for her first year of university. We didn't charge her anything. In return, she was supposed to help around the house and babysit for us when we needed. It was maximum 2 weeknights and 1 night on the weekend. It worked great until it didn't. After her first semester, she decided it was unfair and started refusing to do it. Our kids aren't in diapers and are pretty self-sufficient. We just needed an adult there to make sure they were okay. We talked to my mom and dad about it and they said that she deserved a social life. My wife has a lot of family and friends that send their kids to the States for an education. So we made arrangements to get one of her cousins to come stay with us. My sister moved out to go home for the summer. My wife's family friend moved in. We made sure we told my parents about it so they could arrange for my sister to stay in dorms or rent an apartment with friends. They understood. My sister has gone nuts, however. She is upset that I gave away her room. That she didn't pay for, and that came with free food, internet, utilities, and access to a car if she needed. She thinks we are being vindictive. I think we had a deal and her and our parents tried to change it. Maria, the girl staying with us, has been great. She tutors the kids and we have to tell her to stop cleaning because we have a cleaning lady. Maria is getting 4 nights a week to herself and 1 weekend day.
The exact same as my sister.
We are helping her get a license so she can drive the kids if she needs. We will give her access to a car as well if we aren't using them.
My sister is upset because she was going to use the money from her summer job as fun money for the year and now she will have to use it for housing, transportation, and food.
She will also need a job during the school year so her social life will be impacted.
I tried talking to her about it but she said I was being unfair and cheap. If we pretend we were paying her $25 an hour, that would be 16 hours by $25 by 4 weeks, $1,600 a month.
Rent, all utilities, food, and access to a car for $1,600 is pretty good in our city. Dorms plus a meal plan will be more this fall. Not the asshole. We had a deal and her and our parents tried to change it.
That's a good summary of what's happened. It sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
Not the asshole. Your sister had a sweetheart deal. She decided she didn't want to follow it and wanted everything for free. Well, everyone complaining is someone that doesn't have to provide for your sister. Not the asshole. Lainey FA figuratively and probably literally, and now she is in the FO stage of the game.
My sister pays much more than for a dorm room and a meal plan.
Not the asshole. Your sister had a sweet deal with free rent in exchange for babysitting, then reneged. You found a similar arrangement with Maria, who actually fulfills the babysitting duties.
Your sister's upset about losing the perks, but you offered a fair alternative and kept costs low for her. Explain the situation, highlight the benefits of dorms, and offer help finding a part-time job. Not the asshole. Your sister is an adult now and needs to understand how money works and where it goes. If she spends her first few years of adulthood blowing all her money on fun things, she's going to have very bad financial habits once she actually needs to pay for things on her own.
She neglected her responsibilities, didn't uphold her end of the bargain, now she's on her own.
Not the asshole. Sis had it on easy street, and didn't appreciate what she had.
She didn't live up to the agreement, period. Free food included and potential user of a car?
That's living the good life.
The only alternative would have been to give her an ultimatum. I'm guessing that you felt that wouldn't be taken well by family, as your parents already had their say regarding her social life. Am I the asshole for calling my parents evil?
I, 33 male, had a very big fight with my parents over the way they speak to and about my wife Rain, 32 female. The end result of the fight is I asked them how they could be so evil and told them they should reflect on how heartless they are acting, but that would require them to have a heart.
Of course that is a very strong stance and calling someone evil is extreme. But they have infuriated me and I don't look at them the same anymore. But I want to know if I went too far. So background. Rain and I met in college and we started out as friends who fell in love over time, 2 years.
We got married a year after Rain graduated and we knew we wanted to start a family, so we agreed to try before we were 30.
We were successful and Rain got pregnant with our daughter Miley.
But we didn't have a happy outcome. When Rain was 8 months pregnant with Miley, her father and brother were involved in a car crash.
Rain's brother lived for 8 days after and her father for 9, and on the 10th day our beautiful Miley was stillborn. I struggled to hold it together, but Rain's losses were just unbearable.
That time of year is always difficult for Rain.
3 losses in 3 days and she found it hard to come back from that.
Those losses are still felt very strongly.
Fast forward a few years and Rain is expecting our son. The somewhat difficult part is he is due around that same time. It's somewhat bittersweet because Miley should be excited about a baby brother. My father-in-law and brother-in-law should be excited about another baby joining the family, but they're not here. This is where my family comes in.
My mom told Rain that she can now focus on happiness around that time of the year instead of sadness.
I told Mom she was being insensitive and my mom said Rain needs to decide this will only be a happy time so our son isn't burdened by the losses. Rain told my mom she would still be happy about our son, but there'll always be a sadness about our losses.
My dad's response was to say Rain should keep that to herself and act like it was any other time of the year. My mom agreed with him and said all honors to the dead should be kept private. Rain said that's not how grief works and it's not how love works.
I told them it wasn't their decision how we honor or remember those we lost, and I warned them to be very careful.
So my parents decided to go for the worst thing they could say, and they told Rain she will be a terrible mother to our son and he deserves better. That he deserves to be more important than loss and grief.
I asked Rain to wait for me in the car, and it's when the fight with my parents took place.
They argued that Rain was being selfish and acting like she was the only person who ever lost anyone.
They wanted me to take mine and Rain's son away from her, and I still see red when I think about it. Calling them evil hit a nerve, and I was told by my parents and some of my siblings that I took it too far. Well, I'm not sure there's any coming back from this. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your parents took it too far, you just drew the line in the sand.
There is something to be said about ensuring that your son's birth and subsequent birthdays are not clouded by Rain's and your grief, but that is something for you and her to discuss in moving forward. Not the asshole that is truly evil. They tried to steal away a woman's own baby because she grieves somewhat openly how a horrific time in her that is most likely to be the worst part of her life throughout the rest of it. You might want to seriously consider cutting them off totally if they want you to divorce her that quickly over such an inconsequential thing as grieving.
Not the asshole.
Your parents are making a lot of assumptions about how Rain's grief is going to affect motherhood. They should have kept their mouths shut and offered support as needed.
Not the asshole. Your parents are a couple of sociopaths.
How dare they try and dictate how your wife grieves her family and stillborn child passing away?
I would be absolutely inconsolable if something like that happened to me.
3 lives lost in 3 days? That has to be an unimaginable amount of pain she's in. Is she in therapy?
Not the asshole. Grief is very personal and affects people in different ways.
Just because your parents think they would deal with it differently, they have no right to impose that on others.
Good for you for standing up to your parents, also on her behalf.
I don't think it makes them evil, but I can understand why you needed to be this extreme. They do not sound like they are open to subtle hints.
Hopefully you will be able to sort things out with them, though, so your son will not have to miss his grandparents. I wish you and your wife all the best. Not the asshole. They behaved horrifically, and you are right to stand up for your wife.
I don't know if there's any coming back from what they said.
I would keep them far away from my family if I were you. Am I the asshole for inviting all but one girl to my daughter's birthday?
I, 31F, have a daughter, Mary, 9F.
She is quite popular and is friends with all of the other children in her class.
My daughter is turning 10 this weekend, and wanted to have a party with all of the children in her class at a local kids venue, as she has had in previous years. However, she didn't want to invite a girl called Ella, 9F. Last year, Ella, who was new to the class, was invited to her birthday party. Ella is a lovely girl, and her and my daughter actually get along really well. The real issue is the girl's mother. During the last party, Ella fell over and grazed her knee. She cried a little, but I put a plaster on it and she was back to playing in no time. However, when Ella's mom came to collect her after the party and I explained what happened, she lost it. Her daughter was trying to say it was fine, but she cursed me and multiple parents out in front of the children and tried to complain to the school. As close as my daughter and Ella are, Mary is now scared of Ella's mom and is worried that the same thing will happen again if Ella is invited. When I sent out invites this Monday, I did so privately to that Ella wouldn't find out, and I told everyone to please not mention it to everyone, saying that I wanted something smaller this year.
However, I received a message from Ella's mother in which she was very angry and very rude. She called me a narcissistic bully and even suggested that the fact her daughter wasn't invited was racially motivated. I messaged back and explained it was because of what happened last year, however she kept on insisting that was my fault. She sent me another message today saying that she has mental health problems and can't control herself sometimes, and asking for a second chance, but I said no and asked her not to contact me unless she really needed to. I still feel bad for Ella, and now I am wondering, am I the asshole? Edit. Many of you suggested I message Ella's mother and ask her if there is any way someone else can take Ella. I ended up doing it this evening, however Ella's mother unfortunately refused and ending up being very rude again. I have decided it is best if I avoid talking with her for everyone's sake. I saw some people suggest the girls could have their own mini birthday party at school. I think this is a great idea and I will send my daughter into school with some leftover goodies so that her and Ella can still share a nice memory together during their lunch break. Reserving judgment because this is a tough situation.
It would be a kindness to Ella to tell her mom that she is welcome at the party if someone else picks her up and drops her off. Not the asshole. I feel like everyone is missing the point. Your daughter asked you if she could not invite Ella to her party. These are your daughter's wishes.
You're honoring your daughter's request. And respecting her choices. She's not doing it because she's trying to bully Ella or harm another child. She's doing it because she's afraid of an adult. And you're protecting her. I don't care what anyone else says, this is how I see this situation, and frankly respecting your child's autonomy and wishes for her own birthday is stellar parenting. Keep it up, Mom. Not the asshole. I truly don't get all the YTA and ESH votes. Obviously this situation isn't fair on Ella, but what's the alternative?
Either she is invited and they risk a situation like last year, or she isn't invited and is upset.
It's a lose-lose scenario, but I'd argue Op chose the lesser of two evils. Not the asshole. For Ella's mom, her response to the current birthday was her second chance. Your daughter is scared of an adult, and inviting someone to her birthday will bring that adult. If you want to try to see if playing with Ella is possible again, make a playdate at some park somewhere where the kids can play on the playground while you talk to her. Don't create the possibility of ruining your daughter's birthday, especially since it'd go directly against what your daughter has asked for. A mother who sometimes can't control herself due to mental reasons doesn't sound safe. Not the asshole. If mother has mental health issues, she should get herself some treatment. From what I gather, she never apologized for doing what she did, so she shouldn't be surprised for being left out. Also, at 10 years old, Ella is old enough to understand that, without going into much detail, she wasn't invited because of what her mother did the previous year.